Robert Sterling thought the only thing he had left to lose was his dignity. He was wrong. It was his secret. The price of dignity. Tonight I'll share what happened to Robert Sterling. He thought the only thing he had left to lose was his dignity. He was wrong. It was his secret. Robert, or Rob as his late wife Sarah had called him, was a man suspended in time. He was 68, 5 years a widower, and 6 months an unwelcome guest in the very home he'd bought and paid off with Sarah decades ago. When his daughter-in-law Michelle delivered her ultimatum that morning, $2,000 a month in rent or find another place, Rob didn't fight. He simply smiled. Not from amusement, but from the clear, cold understanding of a truth he'd tried to ignore. They truly saw him as dead weight. And his son David was nowhere to be found, hiding behind the glow of his phone. "How much rent did you have in mind?" Rob asked quietly. Michelle, he told me, had been spoiling for a fight when she named the price, $2,000 plus utilities, in his house. It was a final, undeniable act of disrespect. He'd signed the house over to them just last year, an act of quiet, post-grief generosity meant to help his son escape the crippling debt from Michelle's failing business venture. And now, they were charging him to stay in his own gift. "That seems reasonable," he said. "I'll need a few days to arrange things." Michelle dismissed him instantly, her eyes already lighting up with plans for his bedroom. Rob, meanwhile, made one call. He called James. James, the voice on the other end, was warm, familiar, and respectful, a stark contrast to the chilly atmosphere in David's home. Rob asked if the apartment above the garage was still available. "The one at the estate? Of course it is, sir. But I thought you wanted to stay close to your son." "Plans change, James. I'll need it by Friday." Chapter 3. On Thursday evening, David came home early, a rare occurrence. He found Rob in his room, packing a lifetime into just a few boxes. David was there to negotiate, to try and keep Rob in the house for $1,500. "Michelle thinks maybe we were too harsh about the rent thing," David said, wringing his hands. Rob looked at his son, really looked at him. He saw a man who had somehow shrunk, whose moral spine had eroded. "No, David, I don't think I will stay." David's panic was instantaneous and financial. "Where are you going to go? You don't have a job. Do you want to end up in some provincial care facility?" It was then that Rob shared Sarah's last words to him. "Don't let anyone make you small, Robert. Not even family." He zipped his suitcase. The moment of clarity had arrived. "Are you helping me, David? Because from where I'm standing, it feels like you're trying to help yourselves to what's left of my dignity." Rob dropped the true bomb. "You let me live in my own house? The house I signed over to you last year because you said you were drowning in debt. The house your mother and I bought. That house?" David was speechless. He'd believed Michelle's lie that her father helped with the down payment. On Friday morning, James arrived precisely at 8 a.m. in a sleek, black Lincoln town car. Michelle watched from the kitchen as James, looking trim and sharp, took Rob's 2 boxes and 1 suitcase. "Robert, is that your ride to the old folks' home?" she sneered. "Something like that," Rob replied. David made a final, desperate plea, but Rob was past the point of return. He was already planning to convert Rob's room into a home gym. As Rob slid into the back seat, Michelle called out a final piece of information. They were renovating the basement, the same basement where Rob had built David's cradle. "There's nothing down there I need," Rob said. James closed the door. "Where to, Mr. Pearson?" "Home," Rob said. "Take me home." The drive took 90 minutes, taking them out of the city and through rolling hills and vineyards. James drove them through the open gate of a property marked Pearson Vineyards Est, 1995. Rob's former job in agriculture was revealed to be his ownership of a 200-acre estate, producing 15,000 cases of internationally award-winning wine annually. A business built from scratch with Sarah, and now worth an estimated $12 million. Rob hadn't mentioned any of this. He settled into the converted carriage house, the retirement cottage he and Sarah had prepared, surrounded by the quiet familiarity of his life's work. He wasn't alone. He was home. Weeks passed. David called, his tone moving from concern to thinly veiled desperation. Rob was busy, working with the crew, his hands remembering the grapes. When David and Michelle finally found a way to reach him, their true motivations shone through. David wanted him back, at no rent. Michelle wanted $20,000 or $30,000 in startup capital for her new business. Families should support each other, Michelle argued. "I agree," Rob said. "Families should support each other." He hung up. When David finally showed up at the tasting room, a beautiful, busy space filled with photos of Rob and Sarah receiving awards, he was stunned. He saw his father not as a burden, but as the owner of a vast, successful enterprise. "You own this?" David stammered. "I do," Rob confirmed. "You let me think you were broke. You let Michelle and me treat you like you needed charity." Rob's response was devastatingly honest. "You treated me that way on your own. You made assumptions, David, and I let you, because I wanted to see who you really were when you thought I had nothing to offer you." He explained that he had given David the house not because he needed it, but because he hoped it would be a substantial, loving gift that would make his son reflect on what truly matters. Instead, David had exploited it. "Where were you when you thought I had nothing?" Rob asked. The answer was nowhere. David left that day, heartbroken, having only seen the dollar signs. But 2 months later he returned. He was thinner, tired, and humbled. He had separated from Michelle and was starting therapy. "I don't like what I found," he admitted about the man he'd become. David revealed the depth of his brokenness, how his sister Anna's death years ago had made him pull away and resent his parents. Having Rob around after his mother died was just a reminder of everything David felt he had failed at. "I've always needed you," Rob said quietly. "Just not for money." David offered to give the house back. He offered to work at the vineyard, asking to be part of something real. Rob agreed, but on one condition. "You start at the bottom. You work in the vineyard with the crew. You prove that you're serious about this, not just looking for another shortcut." David showed up for work at 5:45 a.m. the following Monday. Rob watched from his window as his son struggled with the difficult, cold work of pruning, learning the physical reality of the business his parents had built. It would take time. Maybe he'd quit. But as Rob sipped his coffee and watched the sunrise over the frozen vineyard, he knew one thing. The vineyard teaches you patience. It teaches you that sometimes you have to cut back severely to promote new, healthy growth. He texted David, "Remember to hydrate. Manuel will work you hard." The reply came quickly. "Already learning that. Thanks, Dad." It was a small thing, just 2 words, but it was honest. And it was a start. The work of the vineyard continued, teaching them both about seasons, about waiting, and about faith in things they couldn't yet see. Robert Sterling thought the only thing he had left to lose was his dignity. He was wrong. It was his secret.